Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasad Bhakti Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshitarine Hare Krishna. So this chapter is explaining, Krishna is revealing the consciousness, Chetana, the internal awakening or the elevation of one who is performing action, who is aware, who is established in his original position of Krishna consciousness. Very beautiful. The last section that we discussed is a big section that we are discussing. This is from verse number 17 to 29. So in the last session, we discussed about the person who is having equal vision, equanimity. One of the principal themes of Bhagavad Gita is to be equipoised, to be equanimous, to be able to see everyone in oneness. And what is the oneness? The oneness is the presence of the super soul. That every living entity is connected with the super soul. He has an eternal relationship, and that relationship is with the super soul, and the super soul is seated in everyone's heart. So one who has realized this knowledge, vidya vinay sampanne, who is sampan. Sampan means he is well established. He is full with the resource of knowledge. So such a person has equal vision. Brahmane gavi hastini shuni cheva swapakecha pandita samadarshina. So he is samadarshi. He is equal to all. And then the 19th verse is very, very important verse, very beautiful verse. This verse speaks of how one can become nirdosha. Dosha. In material existence, everything is contaminated by the, what is the contamination in the material world? What is the dosha? Before we proceed, the 19th verse, Krishna is giving a solution to all the faults and all the disqualifications. He is giving us the principle how to become flawless, without any faults, without any disqualifications. So Krishna is giving this very important principle in the 19th verse. And also Krishna is giving the standard. If one comes to that standard, he can be conquering death. How to conquer death. That was the 19th verse that we discussed last time. So this is speaking of one who is fixing his consciousness on the Supreme. The Supreme is the super soul who is present in everyone's heart. So, ihar eva ter jite sargo. Sargo means creation, or sargo also means birth and death. So where there is birth, there is inevitably death. So if one has won over birth, he has conquered death. So how he is able to do that? Yesham samme sthitam manaha. When one's mind is established in sameness or equanimity. What is that sameness and equanimity? We have seen in the last verse. Brahmani gavi hastini. He able to see everyone on the same platform in connection with the super soul. So if he has that sthiti, if he has come to that platform of equanimity, he comes to the standard of becoming nirdosham. Nirdosham hi samam brahma. Tasmat brahmani te sthitaḥ. So that is the very, very elevated high position. How to be free from all the faults. What are the faults in conditioned soul? What are the inevitable faults which is there with everyone? No one can say that he is without fault. But here Kṛṣṇa is giving the principle, the formula, how to become nirdosham hi samam brahma. Like the Supreme is nirdosh, without a fault. So one can become without a fault. What are the four faults? What are the faults in conditioned living entity in everyone? Purushottam Prabhu, what is the fault?
So, imperfect senses, cheating propensity,
Yes.
and commit mistake,
Yes.
and being illusion.
Very good. Very good. So these four defects, one can become freed. What is the one thing that one has to learn to be free from all these four defects? What Prabhupada says in the purport? What one has to become? How one can become flawless or free from faults? What he has to do? Only one thing if he can learn or practice. Ganesh? Who remembers? Whose memory is sharp? Please respond. Last week we discussed. What makes him flawless? Anyone remembers? How to become nirdosha?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Ali, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, he who establishes his mind in Brahman, he becomes flawless like Brahman. He
Yes,
goes
this is
out
the
all
verse.
of his flaws. Yes.
Very good attempt. But there is something more deeper to that. He is not influenced by attachment and aversion. Attachment and aversion is what makes us become faulty. Everyone in this material world is influenced by attachment and aversion, or liking and disliking, or attraction or hatred. So if one sees one is on the level of equanimity, if one sees everyone on the same platform, then his vision goes beyond attraction and aversion, hatred or attraction, likes or dislike. So what is the next section? We will take this section from verse number 20 today. So Kṛṣṇa is describing the conduct, the symptoms, and the character of a person who is free from faults. Very, very inspiring section. This is what we should all have the aspirations to come to this platform where one is free from faults. That means he's pure. And whatever he does is perfect because there is no fault in him. So what is the symptom, character, and how he conducts himself in various situations of life, actual situations of life? Verse number 20. Na prahṛṣyet priyaṁ prāpya, nodvijet prāpya cāpriyam, sthira-buddhir asammūḍho, brahma-vid brahmaṇi sthitaḥ. So the first character or the quality of a person who is faultless, or one who has conquered the cycle of birth and death. So in his dealings, in his experience, what is his conduct? Na prahṛṣyet priyaṁ prāpya. Prahṛṣyet means to become very jubilant or overjoyed. What makes us have joy or overjoy? When things that we desire, it unfolds, it happens. If what we are designing or what we are aspiring, if it becomes reality in our life, so our happiness has no bounds. It's a time to enjoy or celebrate. Now, what is the in word is celebrate. Now let us celebrate our success. So that is not with the person who is free from fault. That is a fault. What is the characteristic of a person who is free from fault? Na prahṛṣyet priyaṁ prāpya. Priyaṁ means something that he desires or he has the ambition to achieve. So even if he achieves what he was aspiring or what he was targeting, he is not very much influenced by it. And on the second hand, nodvijet prāpya cāpriyam. Prahṛṣyet means becoming very happy or enjoyable mood. And on the other hand, apriyaṁ. Apriyaṁ means to receive something which is a reversible, which is a reverse or a setback. So he wanted to have something favorable, but in return, if somebody gets something which is rejected or which is condemned, so he becomes very disturbed. But a Kṛṣṇa conscious person is not affected by failures. Why? Because his sthira-buddhir, his buddhi, his intelligence is sthira, steady, fixed. His intelligence does not waver. What about our intelligence? Is it fixed or it is wavering? I want to know your experience. Pranab Prabhu, can we say that our mental is fixed?
No, Prabhuji.
Why? What is the difficulty in our intelligence? Why it is not sthira-buddhir?
It is conditioned, Prabhuji, with the surroundings.
It has not fixed our goal. We do not have our life mission or goal. So it is not fixed. So one who is sthira-buddhi, he is asammūḍho. Mūಢa means one who is bewildered or one who is confused. And asammūḍha means when he is completely clear. There is no confusion in his life. Such a person is brahma-vid, brahmaṇi sthitaḥ. That he knows the Supreme Brahman, he knows the situation, he is already situated in Brahman platform or he is in transcendence. Brahma-vid, brahmaṇi sthitaḥ. Sthita means to be established. He is establishing. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant. This is very, very important qualification. You see our so-called celebrities. If there is even slight success, you have seen them jumping, throwing their fist and showing their elbows and showing their strength and whatnot is displayed. So much of wild reactions is being shown. So such a person is not brahma-vid, he is not brahmaṇi sthitaḥ. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant, nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, this is called asammūḍho. Who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the science of God is already situated in transcendence. So this is the character and the conduct or the symptoms of a person who is in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, who is not in the conditioned life. He is in his constitutional position. Let us see the purport. The symptom of a self-realized person are given herein. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body. This is the first symptom. The first symptom is that he is not illusioned by the false identification of the body with the self. He knows perfectly well that he is not this body, but is the fragmental portion of the Supreme Person. Fragmental portion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is therefore not joyful in achieving something, nor does he lament in losing anything which is related to the body. His steadiness of mind is called sthira-buddhi or self-intelligence. He is therefore not bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth. So these symptoms are told, the character is told, with what conviction he responds is being mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman position perfectly well. Brahman, Paramātmā and Bhagavān, sorry. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth, namely Brahman, Paramātmā and Bhagavān. So we have discussed, in the last verse also we discussed, that there are three levels of Brahman. Sometimes Brahman is also called as the self. But the Supreme Lord is Para-Brahman. He is not just Brahman. He is Para-Brahman. And Paramātmā is the localized aspect which is there in everyone's heart. And Bhagavān is the complete feature. Like I gave one example, if anyone remembers, of Brahma, Paramātmā and Bhagavān. Anyone remembers the... yes, Sonika? Boliye. Sonika, your hand is up. You can speak.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Uh,
Voice is cracking.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, the
Yes,
example
sir.
was given by sun ray, sun planet, and the sun god.
Okay, good. That is a classic example Prabhupada gives. But I gave a very simple example that we can all relate. Like education is there. School also is education, graduation is also education, and PhD is also education. But the levels are not the same. They are different. So school education is not complete as compared to the education of the PhD. It can never be the same. So similarly, Bhagwan realization means the complete realization. And Brahman realization means only the partial realization. And so is the super soul realization or the Paramatma realization, which is in between the incomplete and the perfectly complete. This steadiness of mind is called sthira-buddhi or self-intelligence. He is therefore never by mistaking the gross body. For instance, he is never bewildered by mistaking the gross body for the soul, nor does he accept the body as permanent and disregard the existence of the soul. This knowledge elevates him to the station of knowing the complete science of the absolute truth. The first thing is that he is not bewildered, that we saw, because he is sthira-buddhir. His intelligence is fixed. It is not affected by liking and disliking, raga and dvesh. He is free from both raga and dvesh. And here the other symptoms are also given. that he knows his constitutional position perfectly well. What is the constitutional position? Is to perform service. Without falsely trying to become one with the Supreme in all respects. This is called Brahman realization or self-realization. Such study is Kṛṣṇa consciousness. So the first level of realization, although we may very casually speak, the level of coming to this realization that one is not this body which is taking birth or which is prone to death, but one is beyond body, one is beyond mind. So this realization comes only when one is free from the influence of the modes. Not otherwise, not possible. Next verse, it further speaks of his symptoms. Bahi sparseshu asaktatma vindati atmani yat sukham sa brahma yoga yuktatma sukham akshayam asnute. Bahya sparseshu asaktatma. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure. This is another character or conduct of someone who is at the platform of complete freedom. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. So the theme here is how he focuses his consciousness on the Supreme. And here it is said how he is sthira-buddhir, that he is not distracted by the sense pleasures, by those things which attract our consciousness and degrade our consciousness. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure, but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. Always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. What is the verse? We have discussed this verse. Always in trance and enjoying the pleasure within. Anyone remembers? Very beautiful verse. Yes, Pradeep Prabhu.
So yoga-yukta vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriya sarva-bhutatma bhutatma kurvanna pranalipyate.
Yeah, that is there. But here it is saying that he is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. From within, what pleasure he can enjoy? Here it is saying, Yastu Atma Rati Rev Syat. The third chapter, Kṛṣṇa explained about it. Yastu Atma Rati Rev Syat, Atma Tushta Samanva, Atmani Eva Cha Santushta, Tasya Karyam Na Vidyate. So one whose enjoyment is from within. Everyone who is on the non-spiritual platform, he is trying to seek enjoyment from outside. Inside, his journey has not begun. He has no access to what is inside. So here it is saying, Bahaya sparshav asaktatma. From the external sense pleasure, he is completely aloof or he is detached. And vindati atmani yat sukham. So if he is detached from external pleasure, he does not enjoy or attempt any pleasure from outside, so how does he survive? And then it is said that he enjoys his pleasure, but his pleasure is from within. Vindati atmani yat sukham. Enjoying the pleasure within. And such a person is sa brahma yoga yuktatma. Yoga yukta. What is yoga yukta? One is always connected. Yukta means connected. And yoga means also relation or connection. So such a person, he is always connected. He is always experiencing this sukham akshayam ashnute. Sukham means happiness and akshayam means unlimited. And ashnute means he drinks. Sri Yamunacharya, a great devotee in Krishna consciousness, said, Yada avadi mama cheta Krishna padara vinde nam navarasdhamni udyantam rantumasit tadavati vadnari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukhvakar sushtu nishthavinam cha nishtivanam cha. One more time only. Yadavadi mama cheta Krishna padara vinde namunavaras dhamni udyantam rantumasit tatavadi batanari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukha vikhar sushtu nishthavanam cha. Yamunacharya is the great Alward, the great Acharya from South India. He was the great Grand Master, spiritual master of Sripad Ramanujacharya. Ramanujacharya's spiritual master was, who remembers the name of Sripad Ramanujacharya's spiritual master? Whom we take initiation from? Mahapurna. Okay, you were a little late. Mahapurna. One more was there, okay? Give the answer. Both of you raised hand, Ramya and Sonika. What is Mahapurna who gave him Diksha? Yes, Sonika. Yes, Sonika, you can respond.
Kanchipurna and Goshtipurna were also.
Come again.
Kanchipurna and Goshtipurna was also there, Prabhuji.
Goshtipurna. Goshtipurna gave him the mantra. Namo Narayana Namah. Namo Narayana Namah. Goshtipurna. He had to approach Goshtipurna 17 times. And 16 times he was rejected. Just think, if you are in line for Diksha, and 16 times or even 6 times, or even 1 time the spiritual master refuses, what is our reaction of heart? What do we think? That we think that there are many others from where I can take Diksha, but not Ramanujacharya. So Yamunacharya is the spiritual master of the spiritual master of Ramanujacharya. So all of them are disciples of Sri Yamunacharya. So Yamunacharya is saying that Yada avadi mama cheta Krishna padaravinde. That since I have engaged Yada avadi, from that time, mama cheta, my consciousness, my chetana has been fixed in the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Krishna padaravinde. Yada avadi mama cheta Krishna padaravinde. So then what is the experience? Or what is the benefit? He says, Namanavaras dhamni udyantam rantum asid. I am realizing ever newer and newer pleasures. Today one Srila Prabhupada disciple was giving class in the morning. His Grace Tattva with Prabhu. And he began the class by saying that today morning I have a realization. And our ears all went up. And Maharaj said, or Prabhuji said, that in the morning, as soon as he was awake, he saw one mosquito come and bite him. And when the mosquito bit him, one drop of blood from his body was transferred into the body of a mosquito. And that mosquito was sporting that blood stain on his body. So he saw that blood stain on the mosquito body, and that blood belonged to him. So he said that I was able to realize that this blood of mine now does not belong to me. It belongs to the mosquito. So he did not kill him, or did not try to harm him. He let him go. So newer and newer realization understandings are coming. So here, Srila Jamunacharya is praying that since the time my Chetana, my consciousness has been fixed on your lotus feet, my dear Lord, so every day I am feeling newer and newer enthusiasm, newer and newer inspiration to serve you. And in such a situation, tadavadi bhat nari sangame smaryamane, that if my mind gives me the thought to enjoy the sense pleasure or the sex pleasure, bhavati mukh vikhar sushto nishthi vanam cha. So immediately I spit on that thought or on that desire which is there to enjoy separately from Krishna. Very beautiful verse, very, very important verse to memorize. Yadavadi mam cheta Krishna padara vinde nav navaras dhamni udyantam rantum asit tadavadi batanari sangame smaryamane bhavati mukh vikar sushto nishthi vanam cha. Since I have been engaged in the transcendental loving service of Krishna, realizing ever new pleasure in him, whenever I think of sex pleasure, I spit at the thought, and my lips curl with distaste. A person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste for material sense pleasure altogether. So this is the test that how much one is progressing in the path of Krishna consciousness. So what are the effect of one who is progressing in the path of Krishna consciousness? That is, taste will become distaste from material pleasure. He has no aspiration for any material pleasure, or rather, he rejects or he stays away from the place where there is enjoying of such kind of pleasures. Why? Because he is experiencing the higher taste. He is experiencing the pleasure of Krishna. So unless and until one develops the higher taste, very important principle, unless and until one develops the higher taste, one will not be able to give up the lower taste of woman, wealth and prestige. A person in Brahma Yoga or Krishna consciousness is so absorbed in the loving service of the Lord that he loses his taste for material sense pleasure altogether. The highest pleasure in terms of matter is sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under its spell, and a materialist cannot work at all without this motivation. The Prabhupada is opening the secret that why people work very hard. What is the motivation? The motivation is this kind of pleasure. Sex pleasure, Prabhupada is specifying. The highest pleasure in terms of matter is sex pleasure. The whole world is moving under its spell, and a materialist cannot work at all without this motivation. But a person engaged in Krishna consciousness can work with greater vigor without sex pleasure, which he avoids. That is the test in spiritual realization. Spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. Very important statement. A Krishna conscious person is not attracted to any kind of sense pleasure due to his being liberated soul. Hare Krishna. So should I go ahead or should we discuss? Are you able to be on what Krishna is speaking or discussing? He is giving the symptoms and the characters of a person who is Kṛṣṇa conscious, or one who is focusing his intelligence and mind on the Supreme. He sees everyone in connection with the Supreme Lord. Boli, we have sufficient time. Any discussion on these two verses? What are his characteristics or his qualifications? So what are the qualifications and characteristics? The first thing is that he is not affected by raga and dvesh. He does not rejoice in success, or he not feel dejected in failure. Okay. Bolo, anything to discuss, or I go to this 22nd verse? 22nd verse is the summation of what till now Kṛṣṇa has spoken in the last 4 words. I don't see any hands coming up. So let's proceed on the 22nd verse. We'll take this verse also in this session. Very important verse. Kṛṣṇa is summarizing the principle. Yes, you want to ask something? Yeah.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, here in the 21st verse, it is written that he is enjoying the pleasure within. So, just I wanted to ask, I mean, how Prabhuji he enjoys the pleasure within?
He enjoys the pleasure. What is there within the body?
Prabhuji, soul is there.
Yes.
Soul, Prabhuji, soul.
So he enjoys the pleasure of the Atma, or the soul. What is the characteristic of soul?
Prabhuji, Sat Chit Anand.
So he comes to the experience of Ananda. So he is not miserable. So he enjoys the pleasure from within. That is at the level of Atma. Okay. Dashil bro. Let's go to the next verse. 22nd verse. So Kṛṣṇa is summarizing that how does a Kṛṣṇa conscious person, a person who is in complete awakening, how he accepts and how he avoids. Very important. How he accepts, and what he avoids. Do's and don'ts. ये ही संस्पर्श जा भोगा दुख योने ही एवते आद्य अंतवंत तु कौन्तेय न तेषु रमते बुधा. The first thing he is saying that the enjoyments that are coming through the material means. What kind of enjoyment? The material means of uniting two bodies. One of male and one of female. So some sparshaja, some sparsh you understand, is touch. So the feeling of touch, what it gives a pleasure, it gives sensation through the body. But a person who is situated in Kṛṣṇa consciousness, he is least interested, because this kind of pleasure results in dukh yone hi evate. And those who get married, they know better. Yehi samsparsh ja bhoga dukh yone hi evate. Once they come in the married life, then there is always difference and quarrel. There is always conflict. So there's dukkha yone hi evate. I am minimizing it. It is even much more deeper. And this kind of pleasure, the sense pleasure, or the pleasure which is coming through the sparsha, from the touch of the senses, when the senses and the skin come in touch, it has adi. Adi means the beginning. Anta means the end. So it has both the beginning and the end. It is not eternal. It will not last. It has a start and it terminates. Adi Antavant tu Kaunteya. So Kaunteya is Arjuna. He is the son of Kunti Devi. So he's saying that please know, my dear son of Kunti. Kunti is the sister, she is the cousin sister of her father, Vasudeva. She is her aunt. So he's saying that Adi Antavanta tu Kaunteya. So he has blood relationship with Arjuna. Krishna has blood relationship with Arjuna because Krishna's father and Arjuna's mother are brothers and sisters. So he is addressing Arjuna that Adi Antavanta tu Kaunteya, that such pleasure has beginning and an end. My dear Arjuna, the son of Kunti, and na teshu ramate buddha. So in such flickering, passing by opportunities of temporary pleasure, the wise man does not engage. Na ramate buddha. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. Very important principle Kṛṣṇa is giving. What is the source of misery? In our life, sometimes we are so much bewildered and so much baffled that why there is so much of misery coming in my life. What have I done? So here is the answer. The desire is there to enjoy the senses. So the seed of the suffering is in the attempt to enjoy this material world separately from Kṛṣṇa. So material sense pleasures are due to contact of the material senses, which are temporary because the body itself is temporary. The senses, the body, the mind, the objects, everything is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. This is one major qualification. That is not interested in temporary gains. What he does for eternal happiness. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasure, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? The Prabhupada is asking question. In the Padma Purana it is said, Ramante yogino anante satyanande chidatmani iti rama padenashu param brahma abhidhiyate. This is from Srimad Bhagavatam. That the mystics derive unlimited Ramante. Ramante means Raman. To derive pleasure, great pleasure, highest level of pleasure. It is called Ramante. And who derives this pleasure? Yogina. Yogina means all the other sages. What kind of pleasure they enjoy? Ramante Satyananda Chidatmani. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasure from the absolute truth. Satyananda Chidatmani. And therefore, the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Ram. What does Ram mean? Anyone knows? What does Ram mean? The word Ram, Lord Ram, what does it mean? Yes, Pranav?
Reservoir of pleasure.
Yes. One who is the reservoir of all pleasure. So if one has accessed the pleasure of the Supreme, he is not interested in flickering pleasure of this material world. But what to do? One has not experienced the pleasure of the Supreme, then one will remain at the level of trying to enjoy pleasure from matter. The mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasure from the absolute truth. And therefore the supreme absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Ram. The Prabhupada quotes the verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, where Rishabdev is giving teaching that to his sons, Nayam deho deha badham niloke, Nayam deho deha bhajam niloke, Kṛṣṇan kaman arhate vidvijam ye. tapodevyam putrakaryena sattvam shuddhayed yasmad brahma saukhyam tu anantam. So here Rishabdev is giving teaching to his 100 sons, very qualified sons. He is saying that nayam deho deh bhajam nirloke. So do not try to run after the pleasures which are arising from this deha, from this body. All my dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure while in this human form of life. Such pleasures are available even to stool-eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penance in this life. Kashtan kaman arhati vidbhujam ye. So one has to give up this temporary pleasure. Such pleasures are available to even these stool-eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penance in this life by which your existence will be purified. And as a result, you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasure, which are the cause of continuation of material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasure, the more he is entrapped by material desires. The clear formula. The more one is enamored to enjoy material resources, the more he will be entangled. But the wise man is not interested. If the wise man is not interested, who is interested? Those who are unwise. They're all interested. Okay, I want to stop here. This section ends here. And next section I will take from the next session. So is there any query? Very important principle. Very, very important. That samsparsaja bhoga dukh yone hi evite. The desire to enjoy separately from Kṛṣṇa is the root or the seed for all miseries in our life. Very clear. Dukh yone hi evite. Hare Krishna. Has everybody understood this principle? If one can understand this principle, his consciousness will be very different. One will not commit any sin. What to say of sin? One will not commit any mistake if we can understand this principle. Okay, I don't see any questions coming. So should I end here?
We have one question, Prabhuji.
Yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Little bit more elaboration, Prabhuji. How we can not desire to enjoy separately from Kṛṣṇa?
How we cannot desire to enjoy when we can learn from our experiences. As we have endeavored or attempted to enjoy separately from Kṛṣṇa, what has been the result? The result has been reverses, sufferings, frustrations. So when we become wise, we can see that what is the reason for all this, and Kṛṣṇa is elaborating here. He is clearly giving the principle here that as one attempts to enjoy separately from Kṛṣṇa, what is the result? Yehi samsparsaja bhoga. As soon as he attempts to enjoy bhoga, dukh yoni hi evate. He is cast perpetually into the species of suffering. Dukh yone. Yone means plural, not one lifetime, many, many lifetimes. And then in the next line he is saying, Adi antamant. That such sense pleasure, you see any sense pleasure? It has beginning and it will end. It cannot sustain, cannot survive. So that which has beginning and end, which is temporary, which in the end will become the cause of one's frustration, why one has to accept it? Na te shuram te Buddha. Those who are wise, what does it mean to be wise? What it means to be wise? Let me know.
One who has that realization that if he has suffered one time when he trying to enjoy, so he doesn't want to enjoy again. So he's wise.
He does not want to suffer. So he can give up this false enjoyment. One who is determined not to suffer can only give. Others will not be able to give up. I'll give you one example. You have seen a humble animal cow. The cow, whenever he sees the vegetable vendor who keeps the vegetable on the cart and goes around in the houses to sell. So when the cow sees any vegetable which is green, immediately it wants to enjoy it. Its long neck reaches to the basket where the vegetable is kept and it tries to enjoy it, eat it. And as soon as he tries to enjoy what she gets, what is the experience? Is she able to eat the vegetable? Well, yes, no. The vegetable seller, he has one strong bamboo and he hits the cow on his head. And the cow, with tears in her eyes, she goes back. But you see the programming of our imperfect mind, how the mind cheats us. That is the very famous Pavlov theory. Yeah. The next time, whenever the senses detect, the cow senses detect vegetable, immediately it transmits the signal to the mind of the cow that let me have it. And again the cow attempts to eat and again she gets the beating on the head. This is the trick of the mind, how the mind cheats us. The mind will not give us this reminder. Don't attempt. Last time you were beaten and bruised. So that is the conditioned soul, who is full with faults. But one who is flawless, one who is nirdosham, he is not interested in such pleasures. So by his experience, he learns. And he can restrain and elevate himself. So next section is about that only. That how he restrains himself or how he reacts to such situations. Very beautiful section that I will take from the next class, from 23rd verse. So by experience and by awakening, one can come to this understanding that he does not want to suffer. It's not easy. We are suffering the cycle of birth and death. Are we trying? Are we attempting to get out of it? To terminate that cycle of birth and death? Kṛṣṇa is giving the principle in the 19th verse. To be free from attachment and aversion. So to the extent the awakening is there, to the extent the consciousness has become pure, it is not contaminated, it will be able to apply this principle. And to the extent one is impure, he has desires to enjoy separately from Kṛṣṇa, he will continue to chew the chewed and enjoy something in that. Hare Krishna. So let me end here. I'm having a little short session. Normally we continue till 9, but today being extreme winter, so I want all of you to be in bed in time. Protect yourself. This is a cold wave in the entire North India. Purushottam, your house will be very chilled. It is open from all places. So keep yourself, your daughter warm by applying some, heating equipment and all. Preserve your health and don't expose the child to go out in the cold. So thank you very much. Please read these verses with open heart and see what joy is there in Krishna consciousness. How the person is able to see with the vision of knowledge, jnana chakshusha. In the 15th chapter, Kṛṣṇa will speak, vimudha nanu pashyanti. A foolish cannot see how much he is suffering. But pashyanti jnana chakshusha. So what we have to do, we have to open our chakshu, our eyes with this knowledge, with this torchlight of Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees.